Welcome, everyone, to episode 3 of Neil and Doug Go to the Movies, a North Shore 9 production. I am Neil, and I'm here with Doug. How are you doing, man?
I'm great. Happy New Year to everybody. I guess we probably covered that last time. But
yeah.
Are you hunkered down in the cold? I'm in Alabama, and work was canceled today because we had ice. So I don't know how it is up where you are, but I love it.
We had a little bit. No work canceled, but we've had a couple 2-hour delays this week. On top of
That's
a
all
holiday.
It takes for us is a forecast.
Yeah, trust me. Virginia is not much better. We freak out when there is an inch of snow on the ground. It is not. We are not snow people.
No, they're not. Neither is Alabama. Not at all. They don't know what to do.
No, people can't drive. Schools closed, it's into snow, and then you go up to like New Jersey, and they don't cancel for half a foot of snow.
Yeah, I went to school in Pennsylvania, and I walked to school, and that didn't matter. I never had a snow day, never. I think they have they're a little more conscientious about it, but when I was a kid, it was. I mean, I don't think I knew a snow day existed until when we were 13. I moved to Tennessee.
It's fun. You're literally doing the I walked to school uphill both ways joke.
Exactly. That's it. Both ways, barefoot, mind you, barefoot. So
barefoot, yeah. Recently, I had more like I had a wind day or rain day, like too much rain. I also had cold days, but there weren't a whole lot of snow days because in Virginia, you can't have the little kids sit out in 20-degree weather. They cancel school if they have to wait for the school bus.
Yeah. It's fascinating here. We moved when I was 13. We moved to Tennessee. And I went to a strict Christian school, and I was getting in trouble all the time. 13 years old, I didn't want to move, all this sort of stuff. Yeah. And my mom comes to pick me up from school one day, and I'm like, I don't even know what I did. And I said, and we get to the office, like, Mom, what did I do? She goes, get in the car. And I'm like, oh no, this is bad. And it's flurries coming down when car. She goes, you're gonna believe this. I said, what did I do? I didn't do anything. She goes, they're closing school. I said, why? She goes, for snow. I said, no, seriously, why? Like, there's no accumulation. There's no, I think, and she goes, I know, I don't believe it either. Like, I don't get your brother and sister and just sit down in a car and stay at a couple. So I was like, wow.
Yeah, the South just, it's been home for a while, but man, we can't do extreme weather.
Yeah. I mean, they're not equipped. I mean, part of it's they're not equipped for it. If it snows in Pennsylvania, the plows come out, the sand, they don't have any of that down here. They don't know to plow. I will say,
there was one day they didn't close school with ice on the road, and things got so bad, buses were crashing and everything, that we got hashtag close FCPS trending number 3 worldwide on Twitter that day.
Wow.
So there's a couple bus crashes will do that, I guess.
Oh yeah, it's active. Gotta save the children.
But anyway, we are here to discuss movies.
Right.
And Doug recommended. What did you recommend, Doug? What are we watching?
I recommended the Ocean's 11, 12, and 13. We did such depressing movies last time. I wanted something light and fun. Something you didn't have to think too much about. You didn't have to really connect one to the other. You didn't have to worry about backstory and what happened in episodes 4, 5, and 6. It's just these are just 3. The best way to say it is just movie stars being movie stars. Watching beautiful people do fun things in fun locations with a terrific director. So I've always really enjoyed these movies and got a kick out of them. So.
Steven Soderbergh really just loves himself a heist movie. And actually, I enjoyed these. I'd only seen Ocean's 11 before I watched these. But my favorite Steven Soderbergh heist is actually Logan Lucky. I don't know if you've seen
that's a good.
that.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed Logan Lucky. Just like the heist of a bunch of like West Virginia hicks pulling off the robbery.
Adam Driver, right? Adam Driver's in that. Yeah.
Adam Driver.
I'm a big Soderbergh fan. I've been following his career since he came onto the scene with Sex, Lies, and Videotape. This was in a span where he had just done Aaron Brockovich and Traffic, two pretty heavy movies. And I think this was sort of a palate cleanser for him. He's just like, let's have some fun. To me, this is like the ultimate story of the cool kids and the in crowd, but being told by the outsider, sort of the nerdy, guy that Soderbergh is. I think he just did a fantastic job. And I think, like, you couldn't have put an unknown cast in this movie and had it been as good. You needed it to be movie stars, and not just actors. You needed movie stars. You needed, George Clooney and Brad Pitt, and it's being stunningly beautiful.
It's the first thing you notice, right? Is like, as soon as the movie starts, you got George Clooney, Brad Pitt, then John Shadal, Al Pacino. Like, there's so many just top of the line actors in this, and they definitely lean into the fact that it is a bunch of movie stars kind of just messing around on a Hollywood studio.
Oh yeah, they sort of their whole principle was about how much fun they had and the pranks that George Clooney was playing, and just all such a good time. So yeah, it was like I said, but it was fun. It was very well done. It is a good heist movie, right? There is a good villain, and I love Matt Damon's performance in this. Just playing insecure, and he was just great in this. And
it's a nice counter to like Brad Pitt and like George Clooney are like the guys, like nothing ever goes wrong for them. They're so confident, and you have Matt Damon kind of bumbling around half the movie. Right. It doesn't really change either.
No, he doesn't. He's I mean, I just watched the Ocean's 13 today, and just watching him tell them on giving him a bigger role, and listen, I can go, persuade Ellen Barkin, that sort of thing, and he's just worried about his parents and everything else. It's just, he was terrific. He had just come off doing Bourne, this super confident, that sort of thing. And it was just great. It's just fun to see. I love the beginning of the first one where when Clooney comes to get Pitt, and he's teaching the actors to play poker. And it's Josh Jackson and Holly Marie Combs and Topher Grace. And, it's just funny. They come out of the thing, and the paparazzi hits all them, and Clooney and Pitt go off, and nobody notices them. Yeah. Right before they leave, Clooney says to Topher Grace, "Hey, is it hard to break into movies after doing TV?" Just all the little in jokes. Clooney had obviously done that quite successfully. So and I like just the secondhand, dialogue have with each other. Clooney will say, "Hey, did you?" "Yes, I did." "Did he?" "Who?" "Yes." And they never explain as to what they're talking about. We're excluded from the cool kids club. I love how the Chinese guy, they can understand everything he said, and he can understand everything they say, but we don't know. We don't have any idea what they're saying.
But there's definitely something to be said. Like, it is told from a framework of, these are a bunch of criminals, seasoned criminals, and we are just a bunch of outsiders who have no idea what they're talking about. But honestly, I think like the first one is like, it is so good. Like, the beginning is pretty much as like, you're getting 11 people together, and it is hard to introduce 11 people and for you to like each of them. But they do it like really, really well. It's seamless. It feels effortless. And every single person is only given a short scene, but they're already given like a ton of personality in that one scene. And so
really quick.
Even though the first half hour of pretty much every movie is just like kind of like exposition dump telling you about who everyone is, like, you don't mind because they're just kind of fun, especially in the first one does this like perfectly.
I think you used the perfect word too, effortless. I think if you wanted to sum up all three movies, it was effortless. It was their effortless good looks and their effortless charm, and everything about it was just, again, it just looked so easy and sunny and bright, and or neon and bright. It was just fun to watch. I can't, that is to me the biggest takeaway. These were just fun movies. They're very, easy to rewatch, easy to jump in at any point. And they've aged really well. They were I enjoyed them as much on these, repeat viewings I did to get ready for this as much as I did, or maybe even more. 12 and 13 continue to grow on me. At first viewing, I wasn't as sure, but the more I watch them, the more I enjoy them.
Yeah, let's focus on the first one. And, I would agree. For me, at least, like my first time seeing 12 and 13, like I don't think they quite hold a candle to number one. I just think number one was just so seamless and everything fell into place so great. And it's not like the end of the world type stakes. It's just, we're going to go rob some dude and we're going to get a ton of money and in an elaborate scheme. But the first one, George Clooney is just a lot of times it's hard. You know how you said what's his name? You said it's hard to believe Tom Cruise in some roles,
right? It's
hard for me to believe him, Frank. But he fits Danny Ocean so well. George Clooney is Danny Ocean, and that's his role, like the cool, suave guy who kind of knows the winking at you, like fourth wall break, that he knows everything is going to be just fine. Like he pulls off that really well.
Yeah, that's one of the great things about all three of these movies. That even though, like in the first one, the stakes aren't that high, but in the second one, Benedict's coming to kill them, but there never seems to be a lot of tension. You're never really worried that our heroes are in danger. It's just we're along for the ride. And you're right, Clooney. Yeah, dude can wear a suit, right? When he's coming up the escalator or down the escalator, I mean, you're like, wow, he's, that's a star. Right?
Yeah, it's kind of reminds me of like an Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? He clearly stands out just because he has that movie star face, and so they have him like always combing his hair, always has to have the pomade, it kind of it almost kind of reminded me of that. Like he always has to lean into that pretty boy thing, but when it works, and in both Oh Brother, Where Art Thou and this, I think it works great.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's and I'm going to be redundant with this, but he is a movie star, right? It's when you think of George Clooney, you're not, he's just the best actor ever. You don't think of him the same way you think of De Niro and Pacino and some of these great actors we've had over the years. But when you think of movie stars and you think cover of People magazine, that sort of thing, you think George Clooney.
Oh yeah, and he almost feels like, I don't want to say it's the same because he's not as well known, but he kind of feels like Cary Grant role, where he only plays one character in every movie that he's ever in, but you don't mind it because he does that one thing so well.
Right. I feel that about most our actors, right? Other than Meryl Streep, maybe Jessica Chastain. There's a few. Denzel is a version of Denzel, and we love Denzel. Tom Hanks is almost always a version of Tom Hanks, and we love Tom Hanks and Julia Roberts and Sandra Bullock. And actually, we get mad at them when they play sort of against that type. When they want to do something a little gritty, a little harder edged, and they're like, no, go back to being Pretty Woman. So it's got to be tough for them, balancing with what they want to do with what we want them to do. So
yeah. And even though I do like both Brad Pitt and George Clooney, like I think they're both like really good at just like carrying a movie, kind of being like the MCs through the movie. But what really like gets it for me are just like all the small personalities of like the group. You have like, I forget their two names, but the two guys who were always bickering with one another while they're all put on the same jobs.
The Malloy brothers.
The Malloy brothers.
Scott Caan and Casey Affleck. Yeah.
They're just they're absolutely fantastic. They're hilarious. You have Don Cheadle's character. Character. I don't know how to pronounce his name, but. Cheadle, but yeah, he did the British accent. Who again, the crazy person, the explosives, like they're all kind of like caricatures, but like there's charm to them.
That was the biggest criticism of this movie was Don Cheadle's accent, and he said he worked hard on the accent. He went to London, he was learning the Cockney accent. He hung around people. He said his agent told him it was great, and then he got this huge criticism. He says, needless to say, she doesn't work for me anymore. And if you notice, they have a little in jokes in the second movie when he's coaching up Tess on how to play Julia Roberts. She's like, it's the accent. You got to use you got to get the accent right. That's the most important part. And then in the third movie, when they're having that meeting with Terry Benedict, he's holding the book, and then he shows the book later, and it's like how to speak proper, or proper linguistics, or something. and he starts moving away from the Cockney accent. It's just just so the in jokes, all the little in joke stuff in here is just
it's interesting because he definitely talks way less in the second movie than the first one,
right?
But I mean, I don't know. In a movie like this, like the accent obviously being fake, it didn't bother me. It felt like it felt like it belonged in this world.
Yeah, I agree. And usually I hate accents. It's, we've been watching these people for years. We know what they sound like. And then all of a sudden they come up with an English accent. Kevin Costner in Robin Hood does an English accent for half the movie and then just gives up, And when anybody does a Boston accent, it's just terrible. The New York accent is terrible. So.
No, but it works. And I mean, it's just fun. It's nice because like you have all these like fun characters, you have Ruben and Saul, like the old wisecracking old guys. You have Yen, like all these like really fun like characters. And then you have, Terry Benedict.
Yeah.
And it's just a fun thing to play off. Like he takes everything so seriously. And he's pretty much the only one in this movie who is.
It's almost like he's in a different movie, right? He's so serious, so like somber. And I mean, again, I think that's a choice. They have him do that to, he's not fun. Everybody else is fun, right?
Yeah. And, it makes it more fun to like to see him like steal from him just because like he's kind of like that like stuck up guy. Like it's very basic. Like Soderbergh's not trying to like reinvent the wheel here. Like it's very like classic character types, but the way that he shoots things and the way that he writes these movies, it works.
Yeah. His photography, his filming, the zooming and the montage, and he's a terrific technical filmmaker. And again, you're like you said, he's not reinventing the wheel. He's not doing anything. I mean, he's taking a very basic story. I mean, this is a remake of a 1960, Frank Sinatra and Rat Pack movie, and which again, those kind of movies weren't the most complex. It's eye candy, but somehow he elevates it with his filmmaking and his terrific script.
Yeah, because like I generally dislike like the basic movie plot that you've seen over and over again. But yeah, you're right. This is different, and like his cinematography is really good. Like the movie is never boring, even though the heist only takes even like in Ocean's 11, the heist is only like 20 minutes long, maybe. It could might even be shorter than that.
Oh yeah, it's a small. Yeah, it's not.
But the build-up
is really not much, and it's not the point of the film, right? Even though it's the driving factor.
Yeah. The build-up is so good, and I can't imagine this movie was too expensive. The effects aren't anything crazy. I imagine most of the budget had to go to getting all the actors in.
The budget was a little over $100 million. It made $450 million worldwide. So, bargain, right?
Yeah. But yeah, no, it was it's fun. And then I think what I really liked about it is that, and they kind of lose this, especially in the third one, but just the believability of it. It's a very grounded heist movie. So even though it seems like they're going up against impossible odds, like you never like your suspension of disbelief is never like ruined. It's all very believable.
And part of that's because you don't really know what you're supposed to be believing, right? The stuff that we're believing is not really what's happening anyway.
There's always a twist.
We think they're doing something, and that's not what they're doing. So, it's kind of just a show yourself. This is what they did. And they show you back in flashbacks. You're like, oh, okay, but that sure was fun. I enjoyed that. So, back in this movie, it's really fast, and to that end. The two brothers that we just mentioned, Casey Affleck and Scott Conn, were originally going to be played by Owen and Luke Wilson, which would have been fascinating. I'm glad we got the guys we got, but they couldn't because they were doing Royal Tenenbaums.
I can't take Owen Wilson seriously in a movie.
Yeah, but this might have been a movie that worked, right?
Yeah,
This might have been the movie that worked.
Yeah, no,
Mark
even
Wahlberg.
Yeah,
Mark Wahlberg was cast to play the Linus character, the Matt Damon, and then he couldn't arrange was doing Planet of the Apes, and then Johnny Depp they were in negotiations with Johnny Depp. Thank God. I mean,
nothing against those guys, but they would have been so out of place in this movie.
Right. Well, can you imagine Johnny Depp in a movie where he's the main? I don't think he'd have any interest in playing, that he's not in every scene of the movie. And also playing sort of a insecure. I don't want to say Matt Damon was mousy, but he was unsure, insecure, seeking approval, from Clooney and Pitt, that sort of thing.
Maybe Mark Wahlberg could have done that, but no, it was cast exactly the way it needed to be cast. And I do like the whole, what isn't happening, what is happening isn't what's actually happening. They dedicate all that time to, George Clooney going up to his wife and getting caught and getting scanned and getting captured. And that was just the plan all along, but they don't tell anyone in their group. They don't tell.
Right. Well, so much. I mean, all that stuff that they did. We're going to need a James Brown, a Gilroy. All those things are real things. Those are real cons pulled by, whatever long con scam type grifters, that sort of thing. And so, they're saying we got to do this, and we have no idea what any of that is, right? And like I said, and then they do that. They finish each other's sentences without actually, did you do? Yes, right? It's like, and you got him, and he said, okay, and so. You're just like said, you're loving the conversation, you're loving the dialogue, but you have no idea what's going on. And that
you can make guesses.
In most movies, that would be very, very annoying. Like I would not like that. I'm like, wait a minute, I have no clue. And I think that's part of the joy of this movie is that you don't have to think too hard, even though you have no idea what's going on. You know, you don't. It just sit back and enjoy. This is a good hang. As the kids say, this was a good hang.
And I would say I'm a kid, and I don't think I've ever heard anyone ever say that.
But, very popular down here.
Okay, Virginia's not with the times. But I you're right, and part of it, and I also think this is lost. Like even in the second and third movie, but the first movie specifically, like even though you don't know what's going on, you could have pieced together everything. Like they sprinkle, it's a nice, almost like a mystery movie where they sprinkle enough clues throughout the movie where you can kind of figure out what they're trying to do on repeat watches, and that's cool. Like especially in this first one, you could have guessed, all right, they're doing the hologram, they made the hologram, and they must be the SWAT team, that and to sneak into the vault, and all of that works really well, and I don't know if they do it quite as well in the second and third ones, but in the first one, the twist being able to be seen through it's really good. And on a second watch, it was a lot of fun to pick up the pieces.
Yeah, on second view, you start saying, oh, okay, I noticed that now. But again, I think part of it is their charm, charisma, good looks distract you. It's sort of watching the shiny thing over here, and really what you should be watching is this hand over here. And again, it's just like a sleight of hand, magic show. And
it's also just really funny. Like there's just a whole lot of underhanded comments that just crack you up.
Yeah. It's such a well written movie. The dialogue is so good, and a lot of times in these kind of movies they ignore. In movies now in general, they don't have a script. They have an idea, and then they start just doing things and okay, we got to figure this out somehow. But so it kind of suffers. But I mean, this script was written, it was a very thought out script, and then you had talented people, and I'm sure they did some ad libbing and whatnot, but they did an excellent job. I mean, this is one of my most just enjoyable movies to watch.
Yeah, I remember sitting down with my parents to watch it, and I was like, I'm sure this is gonna be fine, and I really couldn't believe just how much I actually really enjoyed it that first time.
Right.
And so it was really fun to rewatch. I hadn't seen it in about a year. Really, it was a lot of fun, and You're right. It was a nice palate cleanser from watching the prequels.
Yes, it was.
I sat down and watched one of them after the Steelers lost yesterday. That was good. Good palate cleanser.
You needed that, yeah. Yeah.
No more George Pickens fumbles the rest of the night.
Oh my gosh. And I don't want to get too much on a rant, but him and Deontay Johnson both, man, they're so talented, but God, they're knuckleheads. They celebrate. We're down 21-7, and they're celebrating a catch, and it just, like I said, they make fumbles, they make dumb plays. We'll save that for some. We don't do Steelers here, so.
Yeah, maybe we'll start a Steelers podcast, but listen, it's hard to be too mad considering we're playing a road game with Mason Rudolph at QB.
Yeah, I mean, we weren't. This team shouldn't have really been in the playoffs, really. But then I don't know. Maybe they should have been competing for the first round bye if they would have beaten Arizona and New England. But yeah, I mean, I don't think at any point any of us with any kind of rational thought process did not think this team was going far this year.
Yeah, no.
So if they won a playoff game, maybe, but we didn't expect to see them in the AFC Championship game. So the fact that they lost on the road to a better team without TJ Watt, for crying out loud, and like I said, Mason Rudolph at quarterback.
Yeah, and I'm sure I'll get yelled at later. I'll get yelled at later for being Tom one out. But so let's move on to the second movie because we've been talking about all three of them, but we mostly stuck with the first one. But first one, that was my favorite. I just think the first one is just a perfect, as pretty much as good as a heist movie is going to be. Great acting, really good characters, really funny, really good twist.
It's a testament to when you put a good cast with a good script and a good director together.
Yeah.
Right. Look at what happens. Movie magic.
Yeah, it is simple. It's hard to make movies like this and make them so unique and so enjoyable based off of a very basic plot. And I don't want to say the second and third ones are bad, but I don't think either of them caught the magic that Ocean's 11 did.
Yeah, you've only seen them once. I think you got to give them some rewatches because I do. I agree with you. I felt the same way. I think part of it was just after the expectations of the first one, because they, like I said, as you said, they didn't reinvent the wheel. So you thought, well, there's no reason. They're just going to sort of do the same thing again, and we're just going to enjoy watching them do it. But yeah, it's a little slower to start. And the characters are established now. Part of the fun of the first movie was getting to know them, and so it had some challenges to it. But I after, like I said, second or third time through, I really found it growing on me and enjoying it quite a bit.
Yeah.
Again, you can make the whole Benedict wants to kill them. To lure the Night Fox, all these little what now? We got they're in a contest, with another.
Yeah.
Team.
So the first even how I praised the first half hour of Ocean's 11. Right. The first half hour of Ocean's 12 just wasn't very good because you're right. There's no more like joy or magic about learning about these new characters. It's not like the same, fun. And the plot's kind of convoluted because now you've entered someone called the Night Fox, and you have this FBI agent from Europe, and you also have the villain from the first movie, Benedict. There, it's like you have so many more moving pieces, and it doesn't.
Yeah, the first movie. I'm sorry. The second one starts out kind of intense because Benedict showed her Andy Garcia. Terry Benedict shows up at Clooney's house, where Tess is home alone, and poking at her with his little walking stick and saying he's going to kill them all. It's like, oh, this isn't fun and light and airy. Like I just, I just watched the first one. It's kind of intense. Then they get to Europe, Amsterdam. I mean, I think they got it beautifully. This is like one of those old 70s movies set in Europe type thing. And, the foreign films that used to be so good back in the day, but we're not familiar with that because we haven't seen anything like that in quite a long time.
I would say
I think they get back on track.
well, once they get to Europe, the movie starts coming together. Like that's when it starts like really gelling. And I know it goes a little bit further into the future, of this movie, but I think the funniest scene was the just the Jessica Roberts arriving scene.
Yeah. Julia Roberts, Julia. No, that was great.
Julia Roberts. Julia Roberts.
Again,
Julia Roberts playing Julia
breaking
Roberts.
the fourth wall, winking at us. You got Bruce Willis. A cameo by Bruce Willis. This is great.
Bruce Willis showing up was incredible. Because one of my favorite movies.
Matt Damon. Just fantastic.
The accent. It's all about the accent. No.
Yeah.
You have Matt Damon like goading her about like, how does Danny 25 the life sound?
Yeah. She's. It's just terrific. Matt Damon is fantastic, and Clooney's not in this movie. He's not on screen as much as in this movie. This movie was sort of like, all right, Brad Pitt, now it's your turn. It's sort of about in the first movie, Clooney is grappling with getting the girl back and figuring out what kind of life he wants after getting out of prison, and now you got Brad Pitt, back to the scene where I guess his great love. Shoot, what's her name? I've just blanked on her name all of a sudden.
Agent someone.
She's Isabel something, but my goodness. Michael Douglas's wife. What is her name? Anyway, but so he's it's about him getting the girl back, and Matt Damon steps up and has a larger role. So this one is more carried by Brad Pitt.
Agent Lahiri.
Yeah, Isabel. But what's her name? Is
Catherine Zeta-Jones.
Catherine Zeta-Jones. Thank you. I mean, every time the Toulour, the Night Fox was on screen, I was checked out. I mean, so there is, like I said, there's some flaws with this movie. But Catherine Zeta-Jones
I liked the scenes with the Night Fox with Toulour more than I liked like the FBI scenes. The FBI scene just kind of seemed like an unnecessary like third plot. I know what they were trying to do. They were trying to set up like, in the same way that George Clooney was self-absorbed by the girl. Brad Pitt's now self-absorbed by the girl.
Right. In the last movie, Brad Pitt saying, "Come on, man, this can't be about the girl." And then, he's now breaking his own rules and,
leaving the phone out.
Yeah.
But...
she's got pictures of him surveilling her. He's eating. I love the fact that he's eating all the time. In every one of the movies, he's always shoving something in his face. It's funny.
That just kind of goes to show like, the personality of these guys, like everyone has their own little things about them. Right. Brad Pitt's always eating. Someone's always the two brothers are always bickering. Right. One guy, the guy has a terrible English accent. Everything.
Right. Yeah, they all have their distinctive quirk or trait or whatever, and for the most part, they work really well.
Yeah, I would say though. I think then I maybe like that made this like a step down from like the first one. Even though George Clooney's on screen less, I don't think it like really like explores the personalities of the Ocean's 11 group that just made the first one so good. Instead, they're focused on the evil characters, and you never really cared about Terry Benedict. Like, he was never supposed to take up a ton of screen time. He was just supposed to be like generic bad guy. And I think it kind of suffers.
Be a Bond villain. We don't care, right? And every time
it kind of suffers when Agent Lahiri and the Night Fox are taking up screen time that should go to, Bernie Mac. Bernie Mac is barely in this movie.
Barely, I know. I mean, he gets taken into the local prison or local jail early, and we barely see him again. And he's terrific. So he gets a little more screen time. And
Saul quits really early on.
Yeah, right. They seem like that. You're right. They wasted time on conversations with Toulour, Andy Garcia, and Catherine Zeta-Jones. It's like, I mean, they're fine. Nothing, but they take it away from being this fun, again, light and just good time into trying to make it a intense, serious movie.
Yeah.
And
it kind of just blows up, and like the whole FBI, serious FBI agent stuff kind of just blows up in his face once they get arrested, and then they show up at the FBI thing, and then the parental unit shows up.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's it's like I said, they're giving Damon more time, and it's funny. Matt, like I said, Matt Damon, gets a larger role in this, and he's just so good. He's just, I mean, he's acting, right? Because there's no way, that Matt Damon is that unsure of himself and that insecure as this guy is, just dying for approval. And
you have Brad Pitt and George Clooney, who pretty much aren't acting.
Yeah, no,
they're not. Yeah. They're not acting. They're just being themselves. And Matt Damon's here, like actually focused on his role, trying to win an Oscar.
He's method acting. Everybody else is just hanging. But yeah, and then the heist is not really the heist. So they show us all this stuff with the hologram of the egg and all this different stuff, and none of that had anything to do with the actual heist. So that was all just a ruse, and we stole it 3 days ago, and that sort of thing, and it just sort of lessened the stakes a little, I guess, or just I mean, again, at the end they had to. There were no clues to what they were doing.
Yeah, that was my big thing. Like going from the first one to the second one is like you could piece together what was going on in the first one if like you were really astute. In the second one, you had no earthly idea what this was doing.
No.
And it doesn't make a good comparison. I find, and I like both these movies. Like I liked Ocean's 12 despite the flaws, but it reminds me of the Knives Out to Glass Onion movie.
I haven't seen that yet. Yeah.
And Knives Out, so they're both like standard murder mystery movies. And Knives Out, you can piece together the murder in everything if you pay subtle attention to the clues that are being given to you. It's not obvious, and there is a big twist, but you can tell. In Glass Onion, I really like Glass Onion. It's really funny, but you can't do that with that. The twist that they pull is something that you could never have guessed, and that lessens it a bit.
Like, yeah, I mean that's what I said in this movie. Everything they showed us that they're doing was just a lie, right?
Yeah, which makes sense because they're trying to outsmart this the smartest criminal in the world, like that is the goal, and so thematically it makes sense. But for the viewing experience, it's not as enjoyable.
Right. Yeah, and I mean I nitpicked that a little just because if you're the best criminal in the world, nobody knows, right? Yeah. If everybody knows that you're the best criminal in the world, then you're really not that good. It's just it's a matter that means they're watching and they're paying attention, and so. I mean, again, you can't have an anonymous villain there, but I would just think that's kind of silly. It's like, wait, they know every single job he's pulled, but haven't been able to stop him yet. Either you're really bad cops, or he's a really bad villain, but somebody is not doing too well in this scenario.
Yeah, you kind of know how I talked to the first
bandits from Home Alone.
In the first movie, you talk about like suspension of disbelief, like everything felt really grounded, and everything was believable. The mask starts kind of to slip in the second and third movies because of contrivances like this, And again, not to make it less enjoyable, but it's not and it's almost impossible. It's hard to capture what the first movie did so well. And so I say it's a valiant effort, but it's definitely not as good.
Yeah, right. It's hard to be because like you said, the first one's nearly a perfect movie for what it was trying to be, right? It's not, some choice, or it's not Shawshank Redemption. I'm not gonna say that, but that going to this movie, right? You're going to this movie to have a good time and watch these great actors, work together, and they did that as well as it could be done in the first one. And the second one, right? It's hard to get that lightning in a bottle.
I think they leaned really into more of like the meta humor and the jokes in the second one.
Right.
And so I don't think it was taken as seriously. So and that's okay. Like, there is something to be said about just going to a movie and enjoying the laughs and like not taking everything seriously, And so it was still a very enjoyable experience, but man, it does kind of like leave you longing for like what the first one gave you.
Right.
Even if I said again, even those like the 10 minutes of Bruce Willis was probably the funniest part of the entire trilogy.
Oh yeah, it's the best scene in all three of the movies. He's just, I mean, it's just hilarious. And again, it's just making fun of movie stars. You know, my daughter left her SpongeBob over at your house. I need you to call Bill, who can call Frank to call Sarah. You know, it's like 8 levels of people to get the SpongeBob back. You know, there's just such big, movie stars with entourages and stuff. I mean, again, they just, they make fun of themselves. They make fun of Hollywood. They make fun of the whole star process all throughout. But you still want a good heist, right?
Yeah, you still want a good heist, and like that I think that is the lacking thing. And you're right. I think if they just set up the clues for what the heist would have been, excellent stuff. A great movie. But
right. You don't go back in this movie and go, oh, so when they were in the subway, or that's not what happens here. Because like I said, they didn't give us any clues to what was actually going on.
Yeah, but again, overall, it's a good experience, and I'm happy that I saw it. Like, I'm not gonna be. It was a good recommendation, and it's better than the second trilogy movie that we watched last time.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah.
This one had enjoyable moments.
That's a low bar, my friend.
Yeah. But then we get to Ocean's 13. And what do you think about Ocean's 13?
Again, I thought it was really good. Same thing. It's not as good as the first one. Now, Soderbergh says the second one's his favorite. He says it's a technical film. It's the best of the three of them. But during the press tour of the third one, they were saying, we shouldn't call this Ocean's 13. We should call this Ocean's the movie we should have made last time. So they sort of acknowledged that the second movie, wasn't exactly what they wanted it to be. But in Ocean 13, we get Al Pacino.
Yes.
And he's still being Al Pacino, but he's kind of dialed it down a little. He's not so much hoo-ha as he's been ever since Scent of a Woman. He's a good villain. He's heartless and he's cutthroat. And you got Ellen Barkin, who just looks, stunning. And she's always great. She's great every movie she's in, and she's just not in enough movies.
Al Pacino is definitely a better villain than the Night Fox or Terry Benedict.
Although the Night Fox, right? The Night Fox is in this.
The Night Fox is in this, yeah. You brought him back, and I think with Al Pacino, it kind of goes back to like they're is leaning into the joke. Al Pacino's the evil casino guy. Right. Very, very on brand. And, Brad Pitt, sorry, not Brad Pitt. Bruce Willis is brought in to make fun of action movies. He's like in like the most famous action movie ever made. Right. It's small moments like that. Like it's really appreciated because, if you like watch lots of movies, if you don't watch lots of movies, like you probably don't pick up on that stuff.
Right. You've got to be to enjoy these fully. You've got to be in on the meta, portion of it, the inside jokes that they're making, and if not, it becomes sort of it's popcorn,
Yeah, I want to know like how many people like saw these movies and didn't like pick up on like half the jokes,
right,
that the movie was going for.
Yeah, I've been in theaters watching a movie and I laugh out loud and nobody else laughs, and I'm like,
yes.
Me, or is it did they just not get that reference, right?
But you're right, it is like a return to the roots, because the second one is not too much of a heist, is it? It's mostly just movie stars messing around in Europe and having a good time. And this one is a good, honest heist. You're back in Las Vegas. It's the same group of people, and now they recruit the villain from the last movie.
Right. Yeah, you've got Terry Benedict is helping out, right? Because everybody hates the Al Pacino character, Willie Bank, I think his name is. So that's interesting, and of course you can't trust him, and they know you can't trust him, and every once in a while you see the Night Fox. It's like, what is he doing over there? He's not doing anything. He's just in the background. But you're like, okay, he's here for somebody. He's working for Pacino, he's working for Benedict, he's somebody. So you've got that kind of hanging over your, in the back of your mind throughout the movie. All right, if they steal something, is he going to steal it? Is he going to steal it first? Is he going to steal it from them? What's going to happen there? Yeah, and it's it's the same thing. They go back to a lot of the tropes from the first one. They're gonna
Hmm.
shut the power down in the casino. They're gonna but this they're not. They're really not trying to come out with money too much, right? They're just trying to
No.
make him lose his money.
Yeah.
All this up. And for me, my favorite thing in all three movies is them going down to Mexico. The two brothers going. Casey Affleck gets down there first. That scene their scenes cracks me. He gets them to go on strike. He's leading. He's leading a revolution down there at the dice factory, and
Yeah, and it's really good because like
me to no end.
these guys, like those two brothers, like only get like 5, maybe 10. I'm not gonna say 10 minutes, probably 5 minutes of screen time to do that stuff.
Right.
And every time it's just an absolute blast.
Oh yeah, I mean it's perfect. They come in and they hit it hard, and it's great. And the chemistry, the bickering, and the bantering is just fantastic between the two of them. I that just cracks me. And then when you find out what they're striking for is $36,000, and he says, "For how many people? 200. 7.2 million." He goes, no, $36,000 for all 200 people. He's like, for an extra $350 a week. 300. He's like, the reason they go to Terry Benedict for help is because they don't have money to get the drill they need and get the so that, he says like, yeah, we'll write him a check, and then he looks at Terry Benedict and says, post dated, because they're just spending money they don't have, and it's just it's funny.
Yeah, and I think, and speaking of the second drill, that does kind of like get into like, it tries to be the first movie again. Like, there's not exactly the same, but it's the heist isn't nearly as good. It's kind of hard to believe that they can suddenly just manufacture an earthquake.
Right.
Like it's stuff like that where I'm just like, okay, we're kind of teetering on the.
Right. It's like the power went out once before the fight. That's believable. That could happen. Yeah. We saw that happen at the Super Bowl, right? Yeah. But an earthquake,
I mean, maybe there have been people who have recreated an earthquake. I don't know. Maybe that's happened, but I don't think these guys had the ability to.
Yeah.
But yeah, and it is kind of nice, to see like Terry Benedict be on the good side. Even though he's not very happy about it.
Right. And I love they get his money back to him that he invested in this, and they donated to charity. He goes on Oprah. There's two great Oprah scenes. George Clooney's watching Oprah. Brad Pitt's like, "Were you watching Oprah?" He's like, "No, I was reading the paper." With the volume up full, and then they're giving someone a house or doing whatever they do, and Brad Pitt starts crying. It's just great. And then they get Terry Benedict goes on Oprah like, "Yeah, I saw these kids, they needed it, and it really touched me."
Yeah. I think this movie out of all of them like really leans into the silliness of it all. The first two had their moments. The first one has lots of, but the first one's humor is a lot more like dry humor, but everyone's focused on the mission. This one's a bit more silly. Like you mentioned, the Oprah scenes. Like that is just something that wouldn't have made it into the first one.
Right. Yeah, I mean, again, I think they're practically just looking at us and winking. Just saying, okay, we're being silly for the sake of being silly, but we look good doing it, and and Soderbergh is shooting it beautifully. So just come along for the ride.
Yeah, and that's the important, because Soderbergh is like even though the quality and drop off, I think does descend in order. Like I think the third is my least favorite. The first one is my favorite, but they're never boring.
No.
Outside of a couple of times, like the first half hour of the second one, it's good dialogue. It's good stuff. Like I even though like this is the weakest one, I can't say it's a bad movie or that I didn't enjoy it.
No, like I said, the second one starts a little slow. There's no doubt about that. And at first, the stakes seem kind of high, and the stakes don't change. Terry Benedict's going to kill him if they don't get their money. But for some reason, we sort of push that aside, and it doesn't seem to be as looming. And we've watched more than one movie before. We know there's no way that George Clooney is going to die. It's not going to happen. Not in this movie, right?
Yeah. No, but that's okay. Like there's a place for those serious movies. Honestly, I think there was more stakes in Logan Lucky about people dying than there were in these movies.
Logan Lucky, right? Based on it. I mean, loosely based, but based on. a true story, right? So yeah, the stakes were real.
Or like even like A Place Beyond the Pines, where that also has a series of robberies in it, but those stakes are a little higher. Like I don't know,
Heat,
like
one of my all-time favorite movies.
A Place Behind the Pines, one of your favorite all-time favorites.
No, Heat. I was gonna say Heat
Oh,
is a great heist movie with some serious
yes.
stakes.
Okay, that would be a unique one. I don't know if I've ever heard anyone say that about Place Beyond the Pines, but yeah, no, but
man.
or like
Good movie,
or even like something like Baby Driver, and I love Baby Driver. I don't know if you've seen that. It's Edgar Wright.
Oh, I've seen it. Yeah.
I think even the stakes there are a little higher, even though you gotta know Baby's never gonna die.
Yeah,
but people do die, and like so like but that's why I think, because usually the movies where there are no stakes, like superhero movies bore me for the most part, because Superman's an invincible person. He's never going to be hurt. Him and Zod punching each other into buildings for 45 minutes isn't entertaining. So usually no stakes is bad, but for this,
I mean, I love
it's
comic book stuff, but the problem with Superman has always been, right, he's invincible, and but then it's inconsistent. Like one movie, he's struggling to lift a pickup truck, and then the next movie, he's flying a meteor into the sun.
Yeah.
And it's just like, come on, and it's I mean, like Superman versus Batman. The smart money says bet Superman. I don't care how clever Batman is, and I don't care. So you're right. It's very difficult with the superhero villains. Every movie here recently, they've just picked the worst villain. It's just some, some alien bent on destructing worlds for the sake of destructing.
I think that's what the third movie probably has like the most exciting villain.
Yeah.
Of the series, of the trilogy, and usually the villain is like what these movies are like based on, because often the villains are the most like interesting part. But this is a different one.
The better the villain, the better the movie, for sure.
Yeah, but this is a different one. This time, like, you don't really care about the villain. The villain can be a gray blob. You don't really care, but it's going to be interesting as long as you have this group of characters together.
Yeah, I agree. They didn't need a Hans Gruber type villain, but they kind of, in a sense, they got, Al Pacino. Al Pacino seemed like a really bad, and they set that up at the very beginning of the movie. He just screwed old Ruben over and gave him a heart attack and just walked off. It's like, heartless, man. We love Elliot Gould.
Yeah.
Call 911,
dude. Yeah. And poor Elliot Gould. Poor Ruben.
Yeah, Ruben's great though.
I mean, he is great.
You probably haven't seen a lot of his movies from the 70s, but man, he made some good movies.
No, I think I've only seen his stuff in these three movies.
Yeah.
But I've seen.
Go watch MASH.
I've seen episodes of MASH, but yeah.
No, not the TV show. In the original movie, Robert Altman directed, and it's him and Donald Sutherland, and man, that's a great movie. So
yeah, I'm trying to look. I don't know. Okay, I will have to look into that, because no, I've only seen him in the Ocean's movies, but he is hilarious.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he's so fun. And that's the thing. He was I don't want to say he was Clooney, but like, he was the leading man. He made some I can't remember the name of the one, but he played a bank employee and saw that the mall Santa Claus, he had figured out that the mall Santa Claus was planning on robbing the bank. And so he starts taking money out of the thing, and then they go on the news and say, the Santa Claus got $80,000, and Santa Claus was like, oh, I got 20 grand. And so then the guy playing Santa Claus is Christopher Plummer. Man, it's a good movie. But yeah, I mean, Elliot Gould had a really, really strong career in the 70s, made a lot of good movies, married Barbara Streisand. I mean, he's
doing okay for himself.
Yeah, he was A-list, you know what I'm saying? So to see him in this sort of a parody of himself. I shook Schumacher's hand.
He kind of has to like get George Clooney. He's seen like his younger self in George Clooney.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's exactly.
Except right. George Clooney's also getting old, and so he's like, "Do I look 50?"
Yeah. Oh, that's another funny bit. Do I look 50?
Only from the neck up.
Only from the neck up. Yeah. Yeah. And I like what, like I said, Matt Damon wants to, be the one to seduce Ellen Barkin, and they immediately they're like, okay, so we can get through to her, and they're like, all right, we'll have Brad Pitt do it, and they all agree, and he's like, no, I got this, I'm Brad Pitt, with the nose, the nose prosthetic, and the Gilroy, he has to use the Gilroy there to
it can't be worse what is it? He called that one dude in Amsterdam's like daughter of a nasty whore.
Oh yeah, that was in the.
It can't be.
Right. I mean, again, that's what's funny about this movie. They're saying, they say these obscure things that mean nothing, and they're all understanding each other. And then Matt Damon, who keeps showing on his face and he doesn't know what anyone's talking about, then he says something. Then they're like, "Oh no!" Just, right? Well, not the best movie. Some really good scenes in there.
It's to say, and that's the best part about these is that none of them are boring. They're all entertaining, and they're all funny. And they're very self-aware, and I think that's important. Like if you have a movie that does like all four of those things, like you're going to have something that like is going to be an enjoyable time for all. So yeah, no, these were good. These were good recommendation, Doug. Better than mine.
There's a nice balance after our last three. So
I had to make it miserable watching Star Wars. So.
Yeah,
but
it was a slog. Hard getting through them. They were worse than I remembered. That was,
They weren't worse. They were more boring. But I think last time,
that's it. Yeah.
The last time I watched the Star Wars movies, I was in college and I was doing drinking games with my friends, and it was a lot more entertaining to watch Attack of the Clones when you're actively looking for
excuses. Every time someone says young Padawan or young Jedi, you take a drink, right?
Every time Hayden Christensen like makes you like put your head in your hands.
This is Darth Vader? No way.
But that is the Ocean's Trilogy.
What are we going to do next?
Next time, I could have recommended this trilogy, but I won't because trilogies are a lot of work, and I just want to focus on one. We're going to do Hot Fuzz by one of my favorite directors, Edgar Wright.
Yeah. Those two guys, Simon Pegg and I don't remember the other guy's name, but I've liked them in Paul. I've liked them in Hot Fuzz.
Shaun of the Dead. Yeah. So maybe we'll cover all three at one point, but we're going to stick with Hot Fuzz.
I'm in. I look forward to. I'll rewatch that a couple times before.
One of my favorite cop movies, hilarious movie. We're gonna cover that next time, and maybe after that, Doug, it will be Doug's turn to recommend a bad movie.
There's no shortage of them, that's for sure.
Yeah,
that's an excellent choice. I look forward to that. You got 2 weeks. You got 2 weeks, people. Go watch Hot Fuzz. Join in on the conversation.
Yeah. And hopefully by then the Pirates have made an actual free agent signing.
A trade. I'm actually hoping for a trade more because their free agent signings will be for $3 million, and you will write wonderfully detailed articles about why they suck.
I try to be awfully positive in those articles. Like I really try to give both sides, and then people still say I'm the worst negative person.
I mean, you are giving both sides, but the bad side, both sides aren't equal. That's the problem. You should definitely check out what Neil's writing. He's doing a great job.
Yeah. Appreciate it. And we should check out all the stuff. I believe later tonight, Jim will go live with his Out of the Park baseball series. There should be another Fort Friday coming up, or at the very
Friday and
a Clubhouse.
What is it?
So I don't know.
Is that the one with Geddes and
the Clubhouse of Geddes. That should be going up, and then maybe there's another Bucking Around. But that all of those will be
a lot of content during this no Steelers time prior to spring training. We're still there. They're still bringing Starbucks and NSN Live. They have great guests doing the show with the Fort. Pay attention. Check in on the website. Neil is just killing it with some great articles. As are the others.
Though. Yeah. But Kenny, Jim are helping carry the load on the on the blog. So check that out. Yeah. And thank you guys for tuning in. Appreciate your time. We are going to get out of here. Have a good night, y'all, and enjoy your 2 weeks. And we'll see you when we have seen Hot Fuzz.
Let's go, Bucks.
Let's go, Bucks.
You all, thank you for watching. I know we try to provide the most entertaining content that we can, and we'd love to spread it to as many people as possible. So I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but if you could take the 5 seconds to like this video and subscribe to the page, it helps out so much more than you know. Thank you, and let's go Bucks.